what's a need, what's a want, and you start eliminating stuff, and then you prepare yourself so that way when you do get that loan, that you're able to actually make the payments. I would hate for you to get a loan and say, look at me, I'm expanding my business, but then you pulling the loan to pay the loan. That is, it defeats the purpose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of NanaTalks podcast. And today we're going to dive into a topic that is super crucial for both personal and business success. It is taxation. And my today guest is Nisla, who is the true master of arts. And this maybe someone would say a little bit intimidating question, but still I do believe that she's the perfect one. And while we're at NanaFund are taking care of the access to funds for veterans and military spouses who are having their business or planning to open it, Nilsa is covering with her company Choose Love. Man, I like this name. She's helping to make sure that you will not be basically killed by taxes. I'm currently live in California, and I'm not super educated in anything connected to taxes, but what I do know, the taxes over here are crazy. So but just to establish the baseline regarding the importance of the taxation for the overall financial well-being, especially when we're talking about planning and financial projection, can you please help me here?
Oh, well, thank you, Yana, for that great introduction. So, company is Choose Love Solutions. So, I don't want to take away from anybody's
Choose Love
government
Solutions. There you
solution.
go.
Yeah. Planning. So, I always talk about you got to be proactive when it comes to taxes. I know that taxes can be very daunting and people kind of like cringe at the thought of thinking about taxes. You get that tightness in your stomach. You go, oh my gosh, I don't want to do taxes. Let it pass by. Let me not even think about it. I get it. But the reality is, when I always say this, that business, the government, they want you to be in business. They want you to be successful. They want you to make a lot of money. They want you to be profitable. A lot of people don't realize when they think about, oh, they're just taking my money. No, the reality is if you do good, they do good. You make money, they make money, you make money. So it's a partnership. And
Right, you're creating jobs, and
yeah,
essentially all these folks also make money, so everybody like prosper at the end.
right,
Yep.
right, right. And so with that, there are so many incentives available for you as a small business owner. And to really take advantage of that, you have to be proactive, to show that you not only are a good steward of managing your funds, but also to take the time to really learn your business. And I say that because, we're all guilty. Like when I first started, even though with taxes, I was all excited. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do all this stuff. And then you don't breathe to like, okay, I need to slow down. Let me look and see where my money's going. Because we all know when we've been there, there's everything looks good. It's that shiny object. Like, oh my God, I need that. They say I need that. I gotta get it. You get it, and then all of a sudden you be like zero, negative in your account. So you really have to manage how your cash flow when it comes to your business. And that is so vital. And that's going to help you with planning. That's going to help you pay your bills. That's going to help you pay taxes or lower your tax liability, is managing that cash flow. So I would say cash flow is very vital. A lot of small business owners kind of say, let me eyeball it. No, you can't eyeball it as you get successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where should I pay the most attention to? Like when we, especially when we are talking about financial projection, because I'm a big fan of the idea of not only taking care of your current state of business and cash flow, but also, take a look a little bit up front of you and make the financial projection. So when I'm building my financial projections without most probably, especially when we were talking about small businesses or startup founders, they do not have, all the fancy equipment or the maybe tooling. Most probably they're gonna operate just in Excel tables and that's it. But
Hmm.
what should be in there? What are absolutely required and we cannot forget about it?
Oh wow. So spreadsheet is good. It's very good. The first thing is you always want to document everything. So if you purchase something, you want to make sure you have your receipts. Rule of thumb is um, they would say 5 to 10 years or 3 years with your return. I will I will even challenge you just to keep it forever because we live in technology now that you can put stuff on the cloud. So you want to so if you're buying big items, a computer. Computers are you could get from $200 to $5,000 depending on what type of business you're doing. A computer, definitely want to keep that because that's part of your assets. So you want to make sure you're tracking that also too. If you have a vehicle, you want to make sure that if it's only business, you want to make sure you're tracking that also too because there's benefits in that. So you want to make sure you're tracking that correctly. Now, having your business account is going to be vital because that is going to allow you or your accountant or bookkeeper to manage and see where the money's coming in and money's coming out. And I would encourage everyone to keep personal separate from business. It sounds simple, but when you're first starting and you say, okay, I don't have a LLC. I don't have the documentation. I'm just starting out. So even with that, I would say get a separate account and make sure it's just only business transaction. So what you want to make sure is that you have your business account, you have your assets, that you're tracking that because that will determine projected also too. So for example, you're just starting out and I'm gonna just say this, I love cookies. So you have a cookie shop. So if you have a cookie and you haven't and you bought an equipment and you know the equipment lasts for maybe 5 years, you're in your fifth year and you're like, okay, do I? You're in the fifth year, and so you have to look, or before going to the fifth year, you're in your third year. You're looking at your third year, and then you say, okay, do I? Um, how? What does my cash flow look like? Am I able to save up enough money to purchase another one? Do I need to fix that? Or do I sell it? And then the difference, I buy another one. You won't know that until like if you purchase something and you're looking. So to look at the projector, you have to look at now and you have to look at reoccurring patterns because with every business there's ups and downs. You have your high moments, you have your low moments, and the only way you're going to really know when it's in that third year what to do for the fifth year is you have to look at your pattern. So you got to look at how the cash flow. Some business are good during the summer, some are in the winter. You have more money, you have less money. Knowing the cash flow and the trajectory of your business is going to be vital for what you do for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years.
Right. You mentioned that there is a good, like, that essentially it is rule of thumb to manage all of your receipts and invoices and make sure that you're going to pass it all to your bookkeeper or accountant. And
Yes.
while I was participating in one of the accelerators a couple of years ago, we've been told that there is this rule that at the end of the day, you're going to need to have three different roles fulfilled. It's going to be bookkeeper, accountant, and CFO. So my question to you going to be, what going to be your advice? What's your point of view? When is the good time to start thinking about adding to your team bookkeeper, accountant, CFO? Who should be the first one? I mean, should I hire accountant or should I hire bookkeeper? Or like, if I don't have money to hire essentially nobody except of myself because I'm so early and
Right.
in my entrepreneur journey, what should I do to make sure that taxes and deaths will not get to me way too soon?
So what I would suggest is basically you start with the bookkeeper. That is key. So even he's like, oh my gosh, I don't have that. I don't have the money to maintain it every month. I would encourage you to get with a bookkeeper, because some bookkeepers are able where they teach you the steps. So that way you know how to lay that foundation for your business, how to reconcile, what it looks like to to make sure everything is zero out. How to look at your profit and loss statements, how to read it, how to look at your cash statement, how to look at your expenses, how to look at your projection. So those are basic stuff. So I would say start with a bookkeeper, and then you grow to an accountant and then a CFO. You don't want to. I mean, I'm all for, like, if you just start the business and you have the cash flow and you have the bandwidth to support that CFO, then yes, I'll do it. But I would say start with bookkeeping first, then accountant, and then the CFO. Now, the accountant can be your bookkeeper, CFO, because now just depending on what role they are for you. So it doesn't have to be like a standalone CFO. You can have your accountant can do that also too, for you. But they all work hand in hand with each other.
Right. And in case if I'm ready to, or I'm in need to prepare myself for my first business loan, who should I have before that in my team? Would be bookkeeper enough to, prepare myself to make sure that all the documents will be over there, especially in case if I'm not yet in my third year or a third plus year, right? Or should I also have the accountant again to prepare myself?
So you're asking if you have a loan, how to
I I
record
I,
it?
I I wanted to. I do understand. Like, okay, let's use your cookies example, right? I do have my cookies shop, and I do understand that I'm in my, I don't know, let's say second year. And
Hmm.
now I need update my equipment, but I do not have enough money, and therefore, and but I'm gonna need to do it anyway. So I'm
Right.
thinking about, okay, maybe I can take a loan, and I will be able to repay that, right? Like, step by step, but that's gonna ease the burden on my business and will allow me to update my equipment, to not,
Hmm. Right.
essentially close my business in the next year because I couldn't update my equipment, and now I cannot pass, I don't know, some checks, right? So, and that's going to be my very first loan, and I'm scared and I don't know what to do. I just know that most of the like banks waiting that I'm going to be on my third plus year and I'm only on my second. And even
Got it.
though maybe my business is profitable, the profit isn't that huge. I'm still building everything,
Right.
and like I'm trying to prepare myself, and I don't know, where to go, what to do, and sometimes it can feel super overwhelming.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I did. I can relate. I can relate. Have clients. Yes. So one of the things I would always encourage to is when you have, if you want to expand, because basically it's expanding. So it would be beneficial to speak with an accountant, because that way, because depending on your bookkeeper expertise, but usually I would say an accountant, because the accountant could actually look at the numbers, look, get you on a budget, and look and see, because getting a loan, everybody like, get a loan, but can you afford a loan? And that's the key thing. So, like we all know, like you apply for a loan and they say you could get 100,000, but you only making 30,000. Can you afford that $100,000 loan? So with that, there might be some things you go with your accountant where you look and see what's a need, what's a want, and you start eliminating stuff, and then you prepare yourself so that way when you do get that loan, that you're able to actually make the payments. I would hate for you to get a loan and say, look at me, I'm expanding my business," but then you pulling the loan to pay the loan. That is, it defeats the purpose. So, and then also too, a lot of people don't realize when you're getting a loan, banks look at, and lenders, they look at and see, okay, are you making a profit? And you had said it correctly, like 3 years, like depending on the type of business, they already know, okay, there's going to be like a little, like a percentage wise of margin of, but they want to see you being profitable. And that's the same thing like the IRS too. Everybody knows, like, maybe for the most part when you first start, you're not making a profit because you're pouring into your business. You're building it up. Maybe the second time, but as you go from that second to third, the IRS and lenders are looking. Okay, are they making that move to the next level? And so that's why it's so important to look at your books, because sometimes you think you're making all this money, but then your expenses are eating it up. Or then maybe um, you have to do the estimated taxes and you haven't budgeted that in. And then now you see yourself like all your quote unquote money is going towards the estimated taxes. There's ways that you have to manage and plan. And so that's the key thing, planning.
Right. And what is the regular rule of thumb? Because I got different numbers from different sources.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready, or what the amount of, let's put it that way, recommended paybacks for the loan. The number, the latest number I got was the, if you're able to cover with the no more than 10% of your monthly income, the amount of the loan you're trying to pay back, that would be the good essentially amount. Like, so 10% out of your revenue, if you can give it away, that's okay. That's the amount, like, basically of paybacks for the loan you're targeted toward to. And I'm not sure whether 10% is okay, because before I've seen 5%, and I believe that Risk Management Association recommendation are currently, especially after Fed like revisited the rates, there's now near 8%. So, in
Mm-hmm.
your opinion, what might be the number?
Ooh, it really depends because I don't want to say 10%. So say like if you're bringing in 40, you're bringing in, okay, maybe someone's bringing $4,000 a month, and their extra is probably not extra. That
Mm,
$400. So maybe because it goes back again. So my cookie shop that I love, like I said, I love cookies. So it's
oh,
the
we're gonna
holidays.
talk about cookies a
I know,
lot.
I love. You know why? Because I just did cookies. I made cookies with my son. So say like it's the holidays. You're making cookies. So the holidays, you got October, November, December. You're killing it. You are
Right.
making money. You're bringing in like $15,000 because they love your cookie. $15,000 every month, cookie, cookie, cookie. And then January comes. I gotta lose weight. I ain't eating no cookies. January, February, March. It's slow.
Oh
It's
yeah, and then
slow.
the summer like is
It's
coming, and
slow.
yeah, and we are like, oh, I cannot have cookies
Yeah.
at all. Mm-mm.
And then it picks up during graduation, Mother's Day. So that's May, June, and that's it. And then it fizzled. So yes, the 10% will sounds realistic, but it's not realistic because it depends
Mm-hmm.
on your business. So if
On
you
the
do,
cycles you mentioned
yeah, the
before, like
cycle. You say,
you
okay,
have to know your
yeah.
cycle.
So I can say, oh, I can afford $400. I can afford $400 through October, November, December. But then January, February, March, I might do 1%.
Mm.
So it's all about, it goes back to cash management. So if you have that cash and then you save it up and reserve to make those payments, then you're able to do it. But to not have that plan and manage your cash flow will be unrealistic for you to say, yeah, I can take a loan. Yeah, sign me up. And then they on paper, because on paper, um, they'll look at the yearly. Sometimes they'll do the breakdown month to month, and they say, "Oh, okay." But it's like, "Oh, you have all this cash reserved up," but
Mm-hmm.
reality is not, because you still have to cover your expenses, and
Right, and still life can happen to you and to
yes,
business.
life can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
absolutely.
machine break down, and you got to buy another.
Everything can happen, you never know, and in most cases, as we do know, when it rains it pours, right? The machine
Yeah,
gonna break, and then the equipment, and then something else gonna happen, and like then you're gonna be killed by COVID. Boom, there you go. No one expected that, right?
Oh, don't be
So,
so negative.
I mean, well, yeah, you're right. Okay, forget about it. No more COVIDs for at least for the next 5 years, please. We're done. Like we got enough.
Forever. Forever.
Yeah, but like getting back to the very important topic you just mentioned regarding savings, because it seems to me, and I've just talked about this topic with my previous guest regarding the fact that it seems like at some moment of a time the whole nation decided that, you know what, forget about savings, let's spend like crazy, and we started to spend. I mean, the national debt currently is like, it is incredible. The fact when, especially when you're seeing, this like counter, which is like ticking plus millions every second, it is scary. But when we are talking about businesses, especially when you're like getting started, and it might be even up to your third year, maybe even
Right.
fourth year, right?
Yeah.
It
It takes
seems to
time.
me, exactly. And it seems to you that like savings, what are you talking about? I'm surviving here.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a big proponent of the idea that you still need to make saves. Like, even if it's going to be 1%, most probably you won't even feel it. But at the end of the day, if you will save like continuously, and you're going to turn that into a habit,
Mm-hmm.
when life will happen, and it will happen, right?
Right.
You're going to have at least something. You will have that like safety belt. So
Mm-hmm.
again, what might be the rule of thumbs over here? Like, when should I start to do saving on my business account? And what might be the percentage? How should I establish that habit?
Oh, okay. That's good questions. Yeah, I would say start as you start a business. Even if it's $1, save that dollar. So if you get $100, you save $1 or $10, depending
Mm-hmm.
on. And you might say, well, I got to pay bills. Well, that should be the motivation for you to bring in more income. And that's the
Right.
reality is, even if you say $10 and you're just starting out, you're starting a habit. $10 every time you get revenue come in, $10, $10, $10. Before you know it, not only you have established this habit of paying yourself, saving, then you and this is where again you speak to your accountant or you look over your books and say, oh, I can actually start saving more, and you save more. So you could do a percentage or you could do a flat rate.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no right or wrong, but the thing is you start today. So if you're, like I said, if you're bringing $100 or you're bringing $1,000 a month, do 10%, 5%, 2%. There's no right answer, but it goes back to what is your goal for your business. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to start bringing in 15,000, 20,000, in order to do that, you have to have some consistency and you got to have some habits. And if you want to expand and you want to grow, you got to have some kind of leverage and revenue to back that up. Yes, you could go and get loans, you could get credit, but the reality is people want to say, okay, so if you get a loan, most of the time people want to say, okay, so what are you backing up with it? Like, yeah,
Right.
business, but they want to make sure you have the money to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why, like, when you're gonna fulfill your personal financial statement, this huge, incredibly complex, gotta hate it document, like they're gonna ask about everything, right?
Everything.
And even the stuff you do have in your house. Like,
Yes.
okay, let's assume that like life happened, right? And you're gonna need to sell it all. How much it's gonna, like, how much you can make out of it. So yeah, they're gonna ask about everything, and the reason why the bank asking about that, just to make sure that you will be able to pay that money
Mhm.
back,
Yeah.
and they're gonna have their money. That's what you really need to understand. And I'm here with you regarding the fact that you really have to be smart, and not only if you're ready to pay the loan back, but also who gonna be your partner during this process. So it's not like, I'm taking money and then bye bye. No, you're sticking with these folks for a couple years and they better be your partners. So I would encourage, do not like, be so desperate that you're okay with the 18-25% of paybacks, right? Because
Mm,
these folks are predators. They're gonna be absolutely okay with killing your business, with taking your house or car or whatever, right? Or taking all the money from the personal grantor, because that's the business. It's
yeah,
nothing personal, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
you're the business owner, so you have to be very smart with your choices and pick partners carefully. And like when we were talking about, for example, community banks, right? I'm a huge fan of community banks. Well, because of everything, I tend to believe that they are doing an amazing job supporting communities in their region, in the
right,
specific industries. That's your chance to start to build relationships with them. Maybe now you need a startup loan. I don't know, SBA, granted loan. Maybe we were talking about only 50K or something like that, right? But that's your first loan. So now you're building your habit to do the paybacks regularly, to talk to your bank representative, and you're showing that you're a responsible business owner.
mm-hmm,
Okay, next time you're gonna need to borrow money, you can get back to exactly the same bank branch and talk to maybe even exactly the same person, and they're gonna know you. Now you do have that relationship, right? And
yeah,
now you know how to make that happen, so you have to be very, very careful. But what, like, that's might be, more or less constant. What is definitely not constant is everything connected to tax regulation and rules, and it is very hard to keep up. So what are your recommendations for your clients and how you're making that happen? How you're like, taking care of all these tax changes?
yeah. Every time we get someone new in office, either federal, state, local changes happen, and so that's why you have to have a good accountant that's going to stay abreast of the changes. For myself, I that's one of the things we have to do as a enroll agent licensed by the IRS. We have to have all our accreditation. We have to get continuing education. So you want to make sure that your preparer, your accountant, is staying abreast of that. And one of the things we do at our company is we provide the information. We let people know the updates, what the new changes are, what are the requirements there. We do the research. We do the heavy lifting because taxes
Mm-hmm.
is not all that exciting. Unless you like, I got a refund. Oh, I don't have to pay that much. That's when you get like, yeah,
Yeah, maybe some tax credits if you just realize that
yeah,
you're like eligible for some tax credits. That might be yay.
yeah, yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I do understand that. So like when I first seen your profile on LinkedIn, I've seen this like tax coach. I'm like, what that might be. That was the very first time I've seen it. Because like executive coach, got it. I don't know, sports coach, got it. Tax expert, got it. But tax coach, nah. So can you please educate me here?
Okay, so with that, that's with tax planning. So specialize with tax planning, and so with that, able to do it talks about not being um, being proactive, basically that you said about being projective and training. So a lot of people think that you're not able to do certain tax strategies or tax credit and stuff, but as you grow in income and revenue, there's different ways of how to legally, I was going to say legally, where you can actually reduce your tax liability and don't have to pay as much because it goes back to what I said in the beginning. The government wants you to stay in business. So there are incentives for you to stay in business. Now it's up to you to have a tax strategist, that an accountant that is very um, aware of the different strategies in place that you can benefit for as a business. And one of the things that I will always say is protect yourself. You always want to keep everything separate from your personal and your business. And I know you talked about when you get we going for a loan and you were just first starting off, they want you to use your personal. There are some, and you probably get to there's other ways where you could just do the business only too. But the only way that's going to be beneficial if you keep everything separate. So, at any time where you commingle, then then you just open yourself up to your um, personal assets, and so you don't want to do that. So again, the tax coach, the tax strategist is tax planning, finding different ways, different strategy to lower your tax liability legally. And then not only that, you're able to not only look for the current year, but you're looking for maybe 5 years or 10 years. And so that way you are on a path where you're keeping your money in your pocket, but still paying taxes, still being compliant with the IRS in your state and your county. And so those are the things that's where you start.
So that's the magic you're making happen at the Choose Love Solutions.
Yes.
Okay. So are you working also with the clients from California?
Oh yeah. So so going back to what I do. So with being licensed as an enrolled agent, I'm able to do taxes all within the 50 states and abroad. So I do have some clients overseas. So that's kind of cool. Yeah.
That's whoa. Yeah, because I believe that you're originally operated in North Carolina, right?
Yeah. North Carolina.
Yeah. Okay, but the fact that you're also working with like, all the states, that's very incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
I might need your help, at some moment of a time because
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you have to stay smart as we kind of continuously keep
Yeah.
saying and keep talking about that, right?
You
But
do.
yeah, but also I paid attention that you had been, I don't know if you're, no, you're still ambassador at the Bunker Labs, right?
Yeah. So
So
it's IB. Oh, let me not get it wrong. So the Bunker Lab has changed and it's now merged with North, North New York, Syracuse, and it's called the IBMF. I hope I said it right. And that's what it is now. Yeah.
yeah, and we just had the kickoff, like not kickoff, but like very first introduction call over there yesterday, I believe. Yeah, and
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah, and we've been told that like the ambassadors are serving like year over year. I don't know if that's just like started from the 2024 or something like that. So
Oh,
yeah, can you please share a bit more like what does it mean to be an ambassador and why Bunkers Lab? Because not everybody knows, unfortunately, about Bunkers Lab and Syracuse University and everything they're
yeah.
doing.
Oh man, tremendous. Man, I've been a part of the Bunker family. Oh gosh, since 21. Yeah, 21.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 21. And I actually started as what do they call this?
So right after COVID, right?
Yeah, yeah, right after college. Yeah,
God, the most complex time. Oh my God.
yeah.
Okay.
And so I actually started as they call the program Better in Residency. So where they
hmm
help you with your business and grow and build that foundation. Loved it so much, and I was like, we should do this. We should do this. They was like, won't you be an ambassador? So I became an ambassador, and I loved it. It's a good opportunity for not only giving back, because as a teacher, because yeah, you're a teacher. So basically, as you teach, you're learning also too. And so you're pouring into and helping facilitate people's growth and then providing a resource. So you become like a little hub of resources where basically you help other entrepreneurs, if they're veterans, military spouse, military affiliated, where you actually helping them grow their business. And so it's like a little community in which I love because one thing about it is as you grow in your community, you're able to help outside the community. And then it's like all over. So we have I lost count to I don't know if we're in all the states, but I know we're in every region of the United States, and so we still connect with people. And then we go on our we have our little hub, and then we get together And so it's an awesome
Like in person, right?
in person. Yes, it's
God,
a
this
great.
is so great. Especially again after COVID. I know that there are like years, already have passed
Mhm.
after we kind of, faced the COVID, but I'm still getting that feeling that, oh, in person meeting, love it, not
Oh yeah,
online.
it is a good experience. It really is. Oh my gosh. So I would encourage. I know, like you said, that it was open and they were recruiting people. I would definitely tell people to be a part of what they're doing because it's a great opportunity for your business. But not only that, you get to meet other people, so you don't feel like you're alone. Because one of the things as an entrepreneur, you feel like, oh my God, I'm just by myself. No, you're not by yourself. It's always good to have a team, a tribe who's going to encourage you, bring you up, uplift you, and you learn. And that's how your business gets better.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you're currently acting as an ambassador of Bunkers Lab solely in North Carolina, or you are like nationwide
So it is.
ambassador?
I am in North Carolina, but we do get tapped to help out in other areas. But we are in North Carolina, Raleigh, and so it's Syracuse University of D Alonzo Institute for Veteran and Military Families. So that's why we always say the IVMF. So I want to make sure I say it correctly.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting that, like, feeling every time by myself as well. I'm like, "Ugh, okay, Bunkers Lab, forget about it.
Yeah,
I will, or Syracuse University. I will not be able to, like,
yeah, yeah.
memorize everything. Like,
But it's
Bunkers Lab.
so another thing also too, once you become a part of that program, they have different programs available that you can tap into that will help you. So even if you say, you know what, I don't want to do any other program, you can actually become a part of their alumni program, which is amazing. So now not only you're tapping in with people that you are a part of in that program, but people before and people after. And so that's another resource. And it's like a little network, that you get to be a part of.
Oh yeah, and they do have a lot of programs, 4 or 5 at least I've seen,
Yes.
like CEO Circle, and then the Veterans in Business, and there are like tons and tons of different
Yeah. So
programs and
it's
support.
it's making an opportunity because again, it goes back to when you start in a business, you get all excited and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and then you be like, I don't know that, and then you're you know going googling or you YouTubing or you look at AI. What I need to do this, and you're still confused and overwhelmed. So why not be around like-minded people who want you to be successful, who want to see you grow, and then you learning from them. And one of the things I always would tell people is ask questions. Some people they
Absolutely.
get a little intimidated. Like what I had to tell this individual when we were in a part of the group, and sometimes people be like, "Oh, I know how to do this, and I do this, and I do this," and you feel like, "Oh my God, I can't compete." But then you have to realize is, wait a second, they're in the program with me. They need help too. They need help too. No matter what stage of business you are, you can't do this alone. You cannot do this alone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's way too complex. It is complex to be entrepreneur by itself, and it is everyday like uphill's battle.
Right. Right.
But like if you're pushing away, right, any possibility to get help, well, that's on your body,
Yeah.
right? So I really would love to talk a little bit about future trends and what might happen. And again, with a couple of my previous guests, I believe that the very first time we brought this topic was with the Dr. John Sebasta. Now he's from Denver University. So basically, what they're doing for within the last, I believe, 2 or 3 years, I might be wrong over here with the specific number, but they've done the big research. Regarding the uneven access to the funding for the minority owned businesses and for the business owners in general. Because, yes, you're absolutely right. Government wants to see you successful,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe not necessarily like evenly
Mm-hmm.
successful. And the second thing was the fact what they will look at, that there is a lot of incentives which will help you to open the business and like to start it, but not that much of incentives, which will help you to get through this valley of death, right? From second to the fifth year. So I was wondering, when we were talking about the incentive and help available out there for veterans and military spouses specifically, and I would even make it more narrow, in North Carolina, where should I go? Where should I look at? To whom should I talk to make sure that I will be able to survive? I will be able to scale my business.
Um, I would say in North Carolina, we have several resources. The one I'm thinking about is the Veteran Business, the SBA for veterans. That is that would be your main hub to go to. And then also too, the state of North Carolina has programs specifically for veterans. And I would say definitely those are the two areas where I would definitely go because they have the resources. And believe it or not, they have people that look like it's like multifaceted. So it's not you're not going to say just Caucasian people, but black people. There's different, so they can see and they know exactly what you're going through, so you won't feel like you're alone. So I would say, yeah, start with the veteran resources. People to kind of like glaze over it, but they can actually, if you need that hand holding, they can do that for you. And it's a good resources to be a part of. And they're now starting to expand. And if you want, I know I could give that information to you. Um,
Yeah, I would be happy to leave all the
yeah,
links
I'll
and
leave it.
details. Yeah, in the description of the video, folks, you will be
Mm-hmm.
able to find all that information, because I tend to believe that this is very, very important to know where to go to. It's absolutely okay that you do not know everything.
Right,
You
right.
just have to know where to look for the information. and
Mm-hmm.
and I also was wondering, maybe you do know about some programs, or you're talking to maybe community banks, maybe credit unions or SBA lenders who are happy to work with the veterans and military spouses, because I'm working with a lot of community banks, because again, the nature of my business, right? The Nana Fund provides access to the funds, and we're essentially provide access to all types of funds, grants, tax credits, incentives, support programs, etc. Right? We are trying to create that one hub, one spot where you can log into and get the access to the tailored to your specific business profile, links and everything. And that's why we also collaborating with the community banks. And a lot of folks from the community banks will say something like, oh yeah, veterans and military spouses, they are the best, we love to have them in our portfolio. But when you're trying to make sure whether there are some state-based programs, right, which
Mm-hmm.
are targeted toward connecting business owners and banks, there is almost nothing. So I was wondering, like, if there is something in North Carolina, maybe some again, community banks, credit unions, where veterans and military spouses and first responders can go and say, hey, hello, I'm a veteran, I'm on my second year, here's my financial documents, can you please help me? Let's build relationship.
So there's a lot of organizations just like yours, like your company, where they actually support veterans also too. And we have them listed here in North Carolina. And believe it or not, if you go to the community banks, just like you were saying, community banks, they, I forget what it's called, where they have, um, I won't say money set aside, but there's a set aside amount that's geared towards veteran. And like you said, a lot of people don't realize it, and they look at, oh, that's a commercial bank, or they don't do that. It's like before you even ask, and they just open for your feet. But they do have the availability. They have to do it because it's the law.
Yeah,
That's the key.
it is the law. Yeah.
They have to do it. So having that ability, but if you have someone like yourself who's already did the heavy lifting, looking around, and because it gets overwhelming because you go like, I need I'm ready to get this loan. I want to
Right,
expand,
right, right.
but then if you go here, you get defeated. So finding a business like yourself, and we have some over here where they do all the heavy lifting, and they say, okay, this is the one that's best fit for you. I would say definitely plug into something like that. And then it goes right back to, if you go to the Veteran Center, business, Veteran Business Center, they will help you with that, the hand holding. They will say, okay, this, they, by law, they can't say go here, but they could give you suggestions and what to look for and how to maneuver in that world also too.
Right. So that's get back to what you mentioned before. Ask questions.
Oh, yes.
Don't
Regardless,
think,
it says like, I always tell my clients, in reference to, it's good to ask questions. If I explain something and you like, it just didn't click, can you explain it again? I will explain it again. Can you explain it again? Explain it again. Because at the end of the day, this is your business. This is your livelihood. So I want you to have that comprehensive to make the right decision so you can move forward. And that way, someone says something, well, can you tell me so and so about your business? And you're like, well, I don't know. I want you to know. I want you to know. I want you. How much money you got in your bank account? I don't know. Let me get back to you. No, you need to know that stuff. So yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
need to know your numbers. That was another, I do remember this like advice. Again, getting back to the accelerator I was participating into, where they've told me, right, that you have to have your bookkeeper, accountant, and CFO. But
Hmm.
what was the most important, you're the one who's responsible for this business. So you have to know your numbers. If I'm going to
Exactly.
wake up you in the middle of the night, you had to know exactly how much money you do have currently in your business account,
Yep.
how much is pending to be paid, how much you
Yep.
expecting to get with the next like months or two, in case of something will happen, how much fat you will be able to cut off, if you
Yep.
even have that, how much do you have in your savings account. All these numbers you had to have essentially like in your mind every day, because you're responsible for that. You cannot like blame your accountant or bookkeeper like, oh, why you haven't told
Yep.
me so. You haven't asked. And that's your job as the like business owner, as the CEO. That's your job,
Right.
not
And
to only make money, right, but to know
right.
everything about it.
Yeah. And then I would encourage you to have quarterly meetings with your bookkeeper or your accounting, your CFO. How my numbers are looking. Can we go over it? Or if you have any ideas, like you said, you're ready to get a loan. You know, maybe you need a plan to get that loan, or if you get a loan, like how much can you afford?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Was that was so insightful conversation, and it feels that I can, just keep going, 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 going. Because I mean, with you, these tax related topic feels so like lightweighted. It is so like easygoing. I absolutely love it. So thank you so much. That was Nisla from Choose Love Solutions. Still love that name. You would never even think that like Choose Love Solutions might be something connected even to taxation. And that's already like, oh my God, yeah, love it. I'm gonna work with those guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here with you, talking to you and your audience about taxes. And it doesn't have to be scary. You just need to find someone who has the patience, the bandwidth to explain stuff to you and make it very light. Because at the end of the day, like you had said, it's a partnership.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
partnership. And so you want to know who you're partnering with and make sure that they're for you. So you're correct.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to leave all the links right underneath this video, so check the description. Thank you so much. And if you're a veteran, military spouse, first responder, you don't know where to go to, there are going to be all the links for you, because we had the pleasure to talk today with the ambassador of the Bunkers Lab in North Carolina. Absolutely amazing, Nil Salav. Thank you.
Thank you.